Hi, this is Oliver, and this is an analogy for the micro learning for Gmail Google project. It's an analogy. So imagine if Larry and Sergey were sitting on your shoulder as you worked in Gmail or any of the other Google products, but let's say it's Gmail, and they're masters of Gmail. Like they know completely what it all does and why it was built and what for what purpose and how much better it is to use it. And they're very, very patient. They don't really care if you learn one extra feature or not, but they're there. So the analogy is we're going to digitize these guys. Well, look, they're digitized anyway. Look at that, they're digitized. So, but we digitize everything about them. They would seem to have a nice personality, coming from a good space, infinitely resourceful. They have a freemium products. So we're using Gmail, and they just notice that we haven't done two-factor authentication, and it's not beyond us to learn, And so just every now and then they would just say, hey, just by the way, you can have two-factor authentication. They notice that you've got an Android phone and you do have notifications coming onto your phone every now and then, and that you've also got location tracking. You don't mind location tracking, and so whenever you're moving on a bus, perhaps they notice that you catch a bus because in Google Maps you use the public transport function search engine. So if you use that a couple of times, the observation software of you, but it's anonymized or it's individualized, and it's somehow it caches only every 3 months, and then it drops that information. It would observe that you have tracking for better use of Google Maps, and you have an Android phone, and that you check out that you use, that you use public transport, and that you use Gmail, and that you only use the basic function of Gmail, and you don't have two-step verification. So you probably would be okay that you're already being observed with Google, and you also are not, you don't mind having AdSense give you customized ads. So Sergey and Bryn, being your good friends, they noticed that you probably would want to have two-factor authentication. So it would target you with advertising when you're doing searches in a desktop, and it would say, just by the way, there's two-factor authentication, and we think you'd really like it. Would you like us to send you an email weekly explaining why it's really great? So it's going to sell you. So this, as a friend would say, hey, whenever you get a chance, we'll tell you about this really cool thing called two-factor authentication, two-step authentication. And so 3 months later, you go, you know what, I'll have a listen to what you got to say. And then you listen to it and you go, yeah, I'd like to do that, but another day. And so my dear friends Sergey and Larry, we go, well, tell me at Christmas about this two-step authentication. And then they go, okay, we will. And so at Christmas time, they send you a notification on your screen of your phone about two-step authentication. And then you go, gee, it's not that hard. Okay, and you set it up and you do it. And then 3 months later, as a good friend would do, they go, how are you going with the two-step authentication? It might send you an email going, how are you going with that? And you go, I've never actually used it again. I might be a bit rusty. Do you reckon we should practice? Or it asks you, would you like to have a practice on that? To make sure you set it up correctly. Yeah. And then you do that, and then they go, as friends would do, going, well, how strong is your password? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, like a million other people? Do you want to make it a little bit more complicated? And have you thought about storing the password offline or whatever else they might suggest? So two-factor. So that's it's an analogy, an ideal of Sergey and Larry being digitized and being good friends and selling you and delivering and coaching you on one feature, being two-step authentication. But then you could go on and do it for, integrating, having for instance, having Google Calendar being a little window on your desktop version of Gmail. And then they could sell you on one of the cool features of Google Inbox, but that's a different product, so that doesn't quite count. Anyway, so that's the analogy of digitizing Larry and Sergey and having them as a friend, showing you cool things about Google Gmail and selling you, and then coaching you, teaching you and coaching you and checking up that you really got it. Thank you so much, Larry and Sergey.